mass measurement, right? So how do we measure mass? ये आपके क्वेश्चन आ सकते हैं इन ATP, your alternative to practical exam जो आपका होता है P4, right? So you have P1, एक मिनट. So you have your P1 that is MCQ based, then you have your P2 your theory exam, you have your P4 that is your alternative to practical. अच्छा, जो IGCSE कर रहे हैं उनका होगा, उनका बेसिकली हमारा पेपर कोड चेंज होगा. They would have P2, P4 and P6. So it's just the same pattern, right? One for the MCQs, one for the theory, and one for ATP. That is called alternative to practical. इसमें आप experiments नहीं करेंगे, आप just theory वाले आंसर करके आएंगे, right? Alternative to practical. Can anyone tell me कि how can we measure mass? ठीक है, practical experimentally. I guess you might have seen in your labs कि what instruments do you have. You might have seen some videos online के let's say, अच्छा let's imagine you went to सब्जी वाला, उसको पता है आपको, you know कि they basically use a lever arm, right? एक साइड को बैलेंस करते हैं using a weight, and then to counteract the weight they put this tomatoes or onions, whatever you want, right? Otherwise, what have you seen? What else have you seen which basically measured mass? Have you went to a gold shop? They also measure mass over there, right? Using some instrument. I guess the girls would have went to the gold shops, Varda and Mashal, to buy some earrings or some,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
right? You might have seen a glass closed section where they put the stuff and they measure the mass,
Yes, sir.
right? That is pretty
Yes.
similar to this. So now, what else can we use to measure mass in दोनों के अलावा? Can you give me example where you have seen के हाँ, this is example where we were measuring mass. Yes, anyone? तुक्का मारे. Yes, I just want you to guys to participate. ठीक है?
सर डिजिटल स्केल होता है वो जो जिसे हम क्या कहते
Digital
हैं
scale.
सूटकेसेस का
Good.
सूटकेसेस जब हम ट्रैवलिंग करते हैं तो उससे जो हम मेजर करते हैं.
एंड एप्लीकेशन बताएं मुझे कहाँ पे इस्तेमाल होते देखा है आपने इसको.
घर पे इस्तेमाल किया हुआ है हमने घर पे है हमारे पास.
ठीक है. गुड. परफेक्ट. राइट. सही है. ठीक है. गुड एग्जाम्पल. सो वी हैव basically we can use several methods to several instruments to basically balance and measure mass. Okay. तो उसमें होता है क्या है हमारे पास. So first of all, let me just skim and then I'm going to draw some annotations and diagrams over here. So there are several kinds of balances used to measure mass. ठीक है. एक तो beam balance है, that is which you see at sabzi wala or any, let's say you fruit shop. ठीक है. Or if you're going to sell your metal and materials, let's say if you're selling your old metal items, right? So they also weigh your metals. ठीक है. Like how much kilograms do you have? ठीक है. In the lever, then you have the lever balance. A system of levers acts against the mass when it is placed in the pen. Okay, and direct reading system is obtained from the position of the scale on the pointer, right? On the lever system. I explained. So we have the first method, okay, and the second method, and the third method to measure mass. That is an electronic balance, right? So it's pretty simple. It's pretty precise. You just put your mass over here. Let's say you have some things over here. Some, let's say we have some gold balls. ठीक है. Let's imagine a parallel world. Gold is supposed to be red. ठीक है. So you can just see the directly your reading over here. So this will give you the reading and you can just directly note it out. So mostly they are found in labs, right? They're found in laboratories over here. ठीक है, in your labs because they're pretty precise. They have pretty good accuracy and they can be trusted pretty good. ठीक है. And they don't occupy much space. They are pretty small and also pretty accurate. Okay, so इस पे मैं बाद में बात करूंगा. उससे पहले आई वांट टू गिव यू एग्जांपल ऑफ instruments, right? What instruments are we using to measure mass? So first of all, they were saying that we have the beam balance, right? The beam balance system. Okay, so what is the system? You might have seen this mostly in Karachi. ठीक है. So यहाँ पे अगर आप आए तो आपको दिखेगा कि एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट होता है sort of this, and it has a base over here. Let's imagine this is the foots. ठीक है. and there's a scale over here, right? This is the pivot over here, and ये होता है scale इसका, ठीक है जी? Before drawing a pretty great diagram for it. ठीक है, this is the over here. अब यहाँ पे you put the weights. Let's say this is a 1 kg block of weight. These are basically 2.5 kg blocks. ठीक है, so overall आपको basically you're balancing the arm over here, ठीक है? So what is the principle of this? What is the principle of this particular system? The principle is okay, you need to balance. You need to balance the scales, right? So they should be at a certain specific fixed height. This height should be fixed, दोनों की, ठीक है? This reference height. And यहाँ पे you basically put your, let's say you have some materials, let's say you are buying some mangoes, ठीक है? So for mango, I'm going to do this over here, ठीक है? So buying some mangoes, ठीक है? And let me put something green over here. That's a pretty good diagram. Okay. So this basically what happening, yeah, what is happening over here कि अगर आपका यहाँ पे भी basically this is the combined mass of this system is 2 kg, right? And if the combined mass of the mangoes on this right hand side is also 2 kg, then this thing will become almost horizontal, right, over here. And if it has become horizontal, that means के यहाँ पे दोनों की side balance हो गई हैं. That is, this is also 2 kg, this is also 2 kg, right? And therefore you showed के you are almost at the right amount of mangoes. ठीक है? This is a system which basically measures mass. Again, this takes time. This is pretty inaccurate because humans are basically controlling it. It can basically lead to certain errors also. Okay, let's say if they are not exactly parallel to each other, not exactly straight and horizontal line. Okay, what if the sabzi wala is playing with instruments? ठीक है, imagine उसने नीचे कोई weight लगा दिया यहाँ पे already, ठीक है, 0.5 kg का. So it is already you're going to already lose 0.5 kg, right? So this can be manipulated, which is can be basically destroyed pretty easily. Okay, it has some, we can say, loopholes, right? And then the third method which we have, let me just go to the second one, उसके बाद मैं third पे आता हूँ. अच्छा, is this clear? The beam balance, thumbs up. Okay, I guess this is pretty simple, right? Is this clear to everyone else? Yes. Okay, good. Hamza, आप इतनी लेट क्यों आज?
सर मैं कहीं गया हुआ था, मैं जैसे ही आया था मैं क्लास में बैठ गया।
ठीक है, सो अगर आपका रिकॉर्डिंग अवेलेबल हो रही है तो आप फायदा उठा रहे हैं. हमजा, यू शुड बी इन द क्लास.
सर ऐसा करेगा, ये पीडीएफ मुझे भेज देगा, ये क्या है, पावर पॉइंट की भेज देगा, मैं खुद पढ़ लूंगा।
नहीं, आप खुद क्यों पढ़ेंगे? क्लास में क्यों नहीं आ रहे टाइम पे आप?
मैं गया हुआ था ना, ये भी कह रहा हूँ।
यू शुड हैव टेक्स्टेड मी, ठीक है? ऑलवेज व्हेनेवर यू आर आउटसाइड जस्ट टेक्स्ट मी कि सर मैं इतने मिनट लेट आऊंगा. अब आई वाज वेटिंग फॉर यू फॉर 10 मिनट्स ना, ये हो गया,
सही है।
ठीक है? देन वी हैव अ लेबर बैलेंस सिस्टम ओवर हियर, राइट? द सेकंड वन इज लेबर बैलेंस सिस्टम. लेबर बैलेंस सिस्टम, सो इट्स सिमिलर टू द लास्ट वन. यहाँ पे से डिफरेंस क्या है? डिफरेंस ये है कि लेट मी कॉपी द डायग्राम, नॉट कॉपी दिस, कुछ बचा ही नहीं है इस पर. अच्छा, now let me just redraw this diagram. Let me choose black. Again, you have this system over here. This is your, let's say, the entire system. These are the legs of your, let's say, the lever balance. यहाँ पे you have a pen balance. Again, the same disc over here, the same lever pivot over here. यहाँ पे you have a meter, right? You have a meter over here. And if the meter needle, okay, it has a needle over here. If the needle is at the center, there is no fluctuation, right? If it is at the center, that means ke both the sides, both the sides have the same mass, right? Imagine again if I put some blocks over here, and the combined weight of these blocks are 2 kg, right? And again, if I want to buy some mangoes, okay, I'm gonna put the mangoes over here. Okay, and I'm gonna put there also their heads over here. Okay. Again, if the needle is hitting the center over here, that means okay, it is balanced out. If it is at the right side, it means okay, right side is overweight. Okay. If it is at the left side, it means okay, you need to increase the weight at the right hand side. Okay. From left side overweight over. Okay. This means okay, left side is heavy. Okay, and this corresponds to right side is heavy. Right. So it's just a we can say mechanical system to measure the mass side. Okay. I hope it makes sense. Okay. Any questions? Does it make sense? Thumbs up. Really, thumbs up. Okay. Makes sense to Mashal, Bertha, and Hamza, and also Ryan. Hamza, I guess अभी आए हैं तो वो basically he's trying to make sense के हो क्या रहा है. So we are doing a new chapter, Hamza, that is mass and weight. So we are just learning how to basically measure the mass. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So let's begin. Hamza was asking a question कि sir last वाले का name क्या है? Last वाले method का name is lever balance system. Right? Hamza clear है?
सर कैन यू रिपीट?
यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है सामने. The levers balance system, right?
इंस्ट्रूमेंट का नाम क्या है ये जो आप इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं?
This the instrument, the entire thing name is basically the lever balance system. Lever balance बोलते हैं इसको. It's just the body over here.
सही है.
Drawing sorry आपको लग रही होगी sorry 3-dimensional, right? This is the body of the system, and this is the balancing mechanism, right? This is the balancing mechanism. यहाँ पे बैलेंस हो होते हैं सारे लेफ्ट हैंड साइड और राइट हैंड साइड. Balancing mechanism. And this entire thing is called the lever system, right? Does that make sense?
यस.
ठीक है. अच्छा जी. So let me just save it out and let's go to the last method of measuring the mass. ये आप practicals exam में in your paper 2 theory exam में पूछ सकते हैं कि which instrument is used to measure mass, right? So you have the beam balance, you have the lever balance, and then you have the electronic balance. Okay. Electronic top band balance, that is called the third method, which is basically the electronic or digital top band balance. Right? This is the third method to measure the mass. You just put your mass over here. Let's say again I want to buy mangoes. I just put the mangoes over here. Okay. And let me just put the tail. Heads. Seems like carrots. Yeah, but they are mangoes. So what will happen over here? You just power it up. This is the power button over here. Okay. Just power it up. You have some controls buttons over here. We just don't need to explore that. Acha, you have a digital meter over here. You have a digital meter, and through which you can see the direct readings. This will give you direct readings, right? So instead of relying on blocks, okay, relying on weights, okay, these weights, we are just directly electronically balancing, basically measuring the value of the mass. Okay, so that's pretty precise. That is pretty concise also, right? It does not occupy that much space as you see with these instruments, and it just give you reading. That's it. Okay. Obviously, since it's an electronic device, it basically has some uncertainty. Okay. So can anyone explain what is meant by uncertainty? किसी को?
Yes, sir. हम sure नहीं है exact महंगा का
Yeah,
guess.
basically that is some error, right? So आपका जो answer आएगा, let's say you get a reading of, let's say, the mass of this particular mangoes were 955 grams, right? But they would have certain errors, right? It would be basically, let's say, 953, but वो आपको instrument के अंदर कुछ error है, वो आपको बता रहा है 955, right? But there are some very small margins of error, right? So these are some things which you should keep in mind when you're solving the practical question, right? So ये आपके क्वेश्चन पॉप अप होंगे इन योर एग्जाम्स. आई विल आल्सो टेस्ट यू गाइस इंशाल्लाह प्रैक्टिकल एग्जाम के अंदर. So you get an idea कि how do we think about it, right? So every instrument, even the human, contains error, right? So when you take measurements yourself, ठीक है, तो उसमें भी एरर आ सकता है. तो विल डिस्कस व्हाट आर दोस एरर्स, हाउ कैन दोस अराइव, ठीक है, एंड हाउ डू वी बेसिकली मिनिमाइज दोस. Okay, so we have some definition of mass also, right? We have another definition of mass. Okay, some people say okay, mass is, it is a measure of, it is a measure of inertia of a body, right? Sometimes people also say that. So first of all, can anyone explain what is inertia? अगर किसी के पास एग्जाम्पल है तो एग्जाम्पल से बता दे किसका इनर्शिया ये होता है. व्हाट इज meant by inertia? वैसे you have the answer in front of you, but just try to give me a guess or whatever you have basically get, whatever thoughts you have about inertia. अगर सुना है तो क्या सुना है इसके बारे में? What is inertia of a body? Anyone? A guess maybe?
इनर्शिया कोई फोर्स होती है क्या?
uh Not a force but property. It's property of matter, ठीक है. So inertia is property of matter, ठीक है. So what is inertia? The mass of an object is just change from its state of rest or motion, ठीक है. हम पढ़ेंगे कुछ दिनों बाद फोर्सेस के बारे में, राइट? वी विल स्टडी अबाउट द न्यूटन्स लॉस, राइट? उसके अंदर वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट द आइडिया ऑफ इनर्शिया. लेट मी गिव यू एग्जांपल. लेट मी गिव यू एग्जांपल. Imagine you're driving on a, you're going on a road, ठीक है, and you are standing on a bus. You're standing on a bus and it has some very huge tires, right? Imagine it's a bus, right? It has its gate over here, ठीक है, gate है इसका ये, and it has some windows over here, and you're standing over here, right? Let's say this is Hamza. Hamza is standing over here. Hamza ने बस का एक लेट से पोल पकड़ा हुआ है, just to basically stay consistent. Or let's say Hamza basically खड़ा हुआ है, right? This is basically the window, right? These are the windows over here, and this is the driver. Let's say yes, the window, right? So the bus was traveling at speed of let's say 40 meter per second, right? Okay. And the driver sees what? Driver ने एकदम से आगे देखा कि we have a huge jump, right? And what did the driver did? Driver applied the brakes. Okay, and then brakes ने apply कर दिए. And this is all basically smoke over here after applying the brakes. So what will Hamza observe over here? Hamza आपको क्या होगा एकदम से? जैसे जैसे ड्राइवर ने ब्रेक लगाए, ड्राइवर थॉट के आई वांट टू अप्लाई द brakes. What would happen instantly if as soon as the bus driver applies the brakes? What will happen to your body?
सर मुझे सब पता नहीं.
नहीं, अगर आपने बस में ट्रेवल किया है, गाड़ी में ट्रेवल किया है, एकदम से ब्रेक लगते हैं तो what happens to your body?
सर आगे जाते झटका लगता है.
या ठीक है, यू बेसिकली अंडरगो अ जर्क, राइट? तो होता है क्या, यू बेसिकली हो ये रहा है कि योर दिस इज योर बॉडी, राइट? दिस इज योर बॉडी and your body was also traveling with the bus at a speed of 20 meter per second. As soon as let's say this is the bus floor, this is the bus ground, okay, as soon as the, let's imagine a bus की speed क्या हो गई? The bus speed is now 0 meter per second, but your body has inertia. Ab what is inertia? Let me just tell you the inertia definition over here. So inertia, it is a property of matter which resists change. That is called what? Inertia. So your body still wants to continue at the speed of what? Speed of 20 meter per second. Lekin your bus has stopped. So what happens? You basically undergo a jerk, right? The body wants to continue. So होता ये है कि the body comes over here and you basically undergo a jerk and you basically come back, right? So your body wants to continue at a speed of 20 meters per second because inertia is the property which resists change. What was the change? Okay, your change के bus stopped, right? So your body was still wanted to continue at a speed of 20 meters per second, but it had to stop. Therefore, you basically you tried to go forward at speed of 20 meters per second, but you applied the reverse force. Let's say आपने pole को पकड़ा हुआ था, right? You were holding at a pole, so you basically took the support of a pole to avoid this particular jerk. Does that make sense? What is inertia?
Yes, sir.
Varda, Mashal,
Yes, sir.
ठीक है? These are all real life examples, right? You undergo them every day, ठीक है? So that is why this is the beauty of physics. You can check it out, you can test it out, ठीक है?